What happens in Wall Street often doesn't say a thing about what's happening on the real streets of America.
Well, there are thousands who are not free. Yeah. And we know when one person is not free, none of us are free. Yeah. And we know that this isn't the case in God's economy. That's right. It doesn't have to be this way. That's right. That's right. We can do better. Yeah.
We can do better. We can do better.
In America, we are taught that if you are poor, if you are homeless, if you are dispossessed, disenfranchised, it's because you've done something wrong. It's because you are inferior. It is because you are insufficient. And we believe that that is wrong. There are 140 million people in the United States who either live in poverty or are low income, who are one paycheck away from being homeless, or one wildfire away from being homeless, or one missed rent check or car payment away from being homeless. That's over a third of the United States. Now, to me, that is our deep shame as a country. That is a moral emergency, and that's why we need a Poor People's Campaign across the entire nation. We are identifying ourselves with this movement. And what that means is we're saying, hey, we're part of something bigger.
I understand some things about poverty because I am a poor person. We believe that when poor people name their own priorities because they know their own needs and know what needs to happen, that real change will be produced. If poor people are not allowed to speak these priorities for themselves, no one else will.
It's hard enough just to live on this earth and survive. And it shouldn't make it any more difficult. You shouldn't be homeless and be a criminal just because you're homeless. That's right. It's sad. Sad.
The homelessness that you're seeing in the streets of LA, in our community, you can see it all up and down the state. People encamped in the streets, living in their cars, in RVs, in garages. It's a growing phenomenon. And one thing that's important for me to point out, I don't think this is because people just don't know how to manage their finances. This is an economic devastation based on a systemic root.
She said it wasn't a tornado. The tornadoes came, and then they dropped enough, but then after that, then another storm came. Right. And that's what created all this flood. Now, and this water is not only dirty, but it's got snakes, alligators, yeah, and children here.
You know what they said? They said only 2 houses were affected. That's the official report. You can walk down that street right now with your own 2 eyes and see more than 2 houses that were affected. How about if we tell some truth up in here? It's truth-telling time. That which you do to the least of these, you do it unto me.
We thought we were going off to be heroes. But what we found was that we are no more than pawns. And when we come home to live in an unjust and unequal society with the largest prison complex in the world and a political system that seeks to oppress voting rather than to expand it.
North Carolina A&T students has the largest population and concentration of young eligible black voters in this state.
Speak a word, Nick.
So this is the line, Leslie. It goes all the way down. You've got these dormitories over here.
And those over there.
And those are on the other side. Yeah, as far as we can tell, this is the only HBCU like this.
I acknowledge freely that this would be a political gerrymander, which is not against the law. I think electing Republicans is better than electing Democrats. So I drew this map to help foster what I think is better for the country. I want to push back against the words of a racist and acknowledge that what happened on this campus was racist gerrymandering and not political gerrymandering. This was an attempt to suppress the black student vote.
Speak a word.
Something's got to be done to help people with disabilities to vote. One of my concerns is when I went to vote, when the little sheet came out of the thing that showed what I voted for, I couldn't read it. It was in small print.
Let the people vote! That's how you honor veterans.
I get tired of hearing a certain false narrative. And it's that people like myself are weak, lazy, and immoral. But this is far from the truth because weak, lazy, and immoral is letting human beings live in the streets while billionaires receive trillion-dollar tax cuts.
Come on now. Come on now.
Denying health care to millions, cutting social services for the poor, and privatizing the VA while dropping bombs on brown people 1,000 miles away, diverting money from poor Americans to pay for those bombs and lying for the reasons why the bombs are even being dropped, caging immigrant children,
Come on, Mike.
ignoring ecological devastation in poor communities is weak, lazy, and immoral.
This was the site of the first of the 3 major fires that Lewiston experienced in 2013. They were all arson, and there was a lot of agreement that the fires themselves were tragic, but it surfaced this ongoing tension that we have in the community over, who we consider to be a part of our community. And many times it's not even coded. It's literally, we have too many immigrants, their homes burnt down, so let's not rebuild them because, we need less people like that here.
They tell you something is wrong. Mm-hmm. All of us are suffering from the same thing, heart disease, asthma. All of these same sickness. Something is wrong.
That's right.
Why is nobody doing it? Why is nobody researching it?
That's right.
I have no way out. The federal government have posted on everything. Nobody cares about us. Did you hear me?
Look at everything the United States is doing. Look at all the wealth. That's all ours. I mean, that's all the Native American. It's easy to lose that focus because everybody came in that second chapter. But they got to go to the first chapter. The first chapter is going to tell the story of this country. And then Congress or nobody can turn away from it. So, this Poor People's Campaign needs to know that they have artillery, religious artillery that can help the movement. But if you don't recognize us, then it goes back to that second chapter that we're the forgotten ones.
There are currently more than 11,000 unaccompanied children in the care of the U.S. and Humane Services. This policy is inhumane. It is immoral. To remain silent is to be complicit.
There is no individual solution to the social and economic problems that working women face.
We do not live in a mom-friendly or child-friendly country. We face inadequate paid maternity leave, abysmal postpartum health care, and equally appalling access to quality child care and public education. I feel expendable, and if I am expendable, so too are children, and that I cannot stand for.
So we have to hold these politicians accountable. That's where our problem is. In St. John, people are not participating in these elections because these people who we elect, they are not representing us.
There's other systems here that are oppressing us that voting won't always fix, and that we've got to talk about, we've got to call it out, and we've got to mobilize and build a movement to be able to change these things that our politicians won't always change.
But I have to tell you, there's something going on in this nation right now. There's a beautiful birth of a movement, and it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us to stand up and say, I lived at a time when kids were going hungry and homeless, when they were closing hospitals and healthcare centers, when racists were emboldened. But I linked arms with people. I stood up and acted for justice, and we changed it. We changed it.
Forward together!
Not one step back. It's movement time. It's time to shake this nation because this nation is locked up. Our politics are small and binding. But we are those who can see the cracks in the walls and the way to come out of the cells. And we are determined to be free. And we're determined to see other folk free. Free with living wages. Right? Free. Free with health care. Free. Free with food on their tables, and free with good housing, and free with good water and land and air, and free with justice. That is the call of this movement. And we are the front line.